What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Welcome to the show. I am Daniel Aaron, your host. This is the Art of Vibrant Living show, which means, tricky enough, as the title would suggest, this show is all about entertaining, empowering, and inspiring you to create your life into a masterpiece. And we have an awesome, amazing show today. Incredible guest. I'm so excited to share with y'all. I'll introduce him a little more in a moment. First of all, though, what's the purpose of this show? Why does anybody care? Because if you're here, I know that you're not only interested in it, you're dedicated to creating your life into a masterpiece, to having a vibrant, thriving, extraordinary life. And the thing is, it does not tend to happen by accident. We all have conditioning. The world is full of stimulus and stimulation that suggests gravity pulling us down. There are forces that pull us back, operating all the time. So for us to create a life of vibrancy, it means we need education, we need empowerment, and then we need to take action. And that's what this show is all about, is giving you the mindset, the tools, and the information and the inspiration to launch yourself into an even better, more amazing life. That, my friends, includes your financial life. And whether you call it prosperity, abundance, wealth, security, all of these things are related and important. And I love this topic because for so much of my own life, even though I had a great sense of abundance from when I was in my mid-20s, I learned about spiritual prosperity. I hadn't really learned about money and financial stewardship until not that many years ago. And I learned it through some pain. And one of the things I have found is so many people that are in the spiritual world and physical health, spiritual health, maybe doing really well, often lacking in the financial health. And that is a crying shame, right? One of my favorite quotations is that there's nothing sadder than a broke philanthropist. In the same way, there's nothing sadder than people that have great hearts and values who are not contributing to the world, not living in the vibrancy that they could be because they are struggling on the financial and survival levels. So our guest today, Joel Salaman, is an amazing, amazing dude. He is a finance and mindful money expert and master prosperity coach, and he helps others overcome obstacles that are in the way of their financial freedom, right? So valuable. He's an award-winning TEDx speaker, workshop facilitator, and frequent television and podcast guest who's been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Newsday, U.S. News, World Report, and interviewed in Forbes and on Bloomberg Radio. He's got an amazing personal experience with finance. He's done some phenomenal things in the big leagues of the finance world. And in some ways, he's left a lot of that behind. He's taken the lessons with him to become someone that's empowering people like you and me. I could say a lot more, but you know what? Let's hear directly from Joel, because that's why he is here. That's why we are here to hear from Joel. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today, Joel. Awesome to have you here.
It is an extreme honor and pleasure, Daniel, to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited.
Right on. Well, it's as you might have heard in what I just said, it's such an important topic, and it's one that so many people struggle with, right? And maybe we'll get into some more of why that is. And I have my own experience and philosophies around it. But first, let's hear a little bit. I have the advantage of having heard your TED Talk and knowing a bit about your journey. Though for the people in our audience that don't know about that, what would you share with them that's will help them to understand better the value that you've got to share today?
Well, great question. I started my career as an actuary, and you may know the difference between an actuary and an accountant, Daniel. An actuary looks at his feet when he talks to you, an accountant looks at your feet when they talk to you. That was a joke. But I did work at an insurance company for almost 8 years, calculating the premium you had to pay for your life insurance or disability insurance policy. And actuaries calculate premiums for different insurance products. And while I was doing that and going through all the exams, you see over my head here, FSA stands for Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. So I am certified to sign financial statements of insurance companies. While doing that, I realized that wasn't my passion. And I teach people now to do their passion. And I truly believe that if you're doing your passion and your purpose, you will be more prosperous and more abundant. And in fact, I'm writing a book right now with a purpose coach called Purpose and Prosperity. So I wasn't doing my purpose. And I thought my purpose was being an investor, being a money manager. But when I reached out to those money managers on Wall Street, they gave me doubt, massive doubt, a ton of rejection. They said, Joel, stay as an actuary. You can't do this. And I teach my clients now, hashtag doubt the doubt. Have faith in your dream. Don't have faith in your doubt. And I knew that intuitively way back then, 30 years ago. And so I finally found one money manager who gave me his path, and I followed it kind of in order to become a money manager. And in 2008, I started working at Citi as a hedge fund manager, managing $300 million for the bank. And you may remember 2008. I know you're quite young, Daniel, but you may remember 2008 was not the best year in the stock market. The market was down 40%. Financial companies, the only stocks I was invested in, were down 57%. And we managed to make a little bit of money that year for the shareholders of the bank. And then the next year was better. And the next year was even better. And to be open with you, I might still be there today if there wasn't a law that passed that said banks can't own hedge funds. So we were all laid off, which actually gave me the kick in the butt to start my own fund, which actually was my true dream. And I started my own hedge fund, Solomore Capital, which, by the way, my company name, Solomore, is named after my daughters, Lauren and Morgan. Laura for Lauren, Moore for Morgan. They were just born yesterday, but they are 19 and 17. And so I started my own hedge fund. And that was the dream. And I was living my dream, smiling broadly every morning when I got up, and so happy to be living that dream that I had for so many years. And something unusual happened. I went to a personal development course in December of 2015. And I'll just tell you one of the two major things that happened. One was that we had a guest speaker speaking for 1 hour in this 3.5-day conference about stocks and stock options. And when he spoke about options in particular, he made it sound easy. He said, you don't need much time, you don't need much money. This is how the rich people get rich, and options are essentially risk-free. And I was sick to my stomach. I had people tap me on the shoulder, whisper me, Joel, does this make sense? So after he was done, we went out of the auditorium. I told him, please don't do this. He has no idea about any of you individually, and most importantly, no idea about your belief that you can become rich using options. I went home that night, I couldn't sleep. Probably it was 4:30 in the morning. I jumped out of bed. I quickly got dressed. I was at my office in Midtown Manhattan before the sun rose. And I sent an email to my investors telling them I'm giving them their money back. I'm shutting down my fund. I figured out my true purpose in life: to help people become financially free, to be authentic and tell them the truth about money and not lie to them. Because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that everyone's an individual and everyone can become rich, but it might be different for each of you who are watching right now. It could be through your business, it could be through options, but it could be through stocks or real estate, or maybe through having your own live podcast and getting people to subscribe and then getting advertisers. There's so many different ways to become rich. And so that's what I teach, is I empower people to know that they can become rich, financially free, by doing their purpose and being passionate about it.
That's amazing. Amazing what you're doing, and the positivity and empowerment of that message, and also amazing to, for you to have stepped into that world in such a big way right in 2008. And I, when I heard you say that earlier, I was like, oh my goodness, like that, you would think that would just be the most horrible time ever, like our associations back to that time. Yet amazingly, it didn't become that for you. And I'm sure that a lot of that had to do with your own mindset and the way you were working with it. And I love what you said about, I mean, you were kind about it. I think when you're in that seminar and the guy's saying, oh, it's, no risks to do options. And, like if I had been there, I would have been like, so angry. Like that just seems criminal to me. And maybe was, I don't know. but the thing that you brought forward was so powerful to the people that were asking your counsel on it, is like, does not know you. Right. And that's such an important part of this, because one's financial life, what I've learned, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on this, one's financial life is as personal and individual as one's spiritual life, as one's physical health. It's all unique to us. And one of the big problems that I see in this realm is people abdicate responsibility here. They say, oh, somebody in a lab coat or wearing beads or has got a hat on, or, speaks financialese. They're the expert. I don't know anything. I can't trust myself. So, and I'll tell you after maybe my experience of how that switched for me. But does that make sense? Do you run into that kind of issue with people?
A lot of people spend their life blaming other people for their life. And I take full responsibility for my life, all aspects. I've been divorced twice, and I chose the women and I made the decision. So I take full responsibility for all aspects of my life, and I will require my clients to do the same. And so, yes, I've made mistakes. In fact, in my TEDx speech, How to Create Money Miracles, I talked about how I lost $600,000 in one day. That was painful. That was very painful. But I didn't stop investing. I took responsibility for it, and I decided, how can I change? So I think it's really important for people who are watching to know in their heart of hearts that they have to take responsibility for their life, because that's the only way you can change. If you're blaming other people, then you can blame them the rest of your life, and you're not going to change yourself. So, and like you said, Daniel, everyone's coming from a different perspective. We were taught things growing up about money, and I ask all my clients about their relationship with money growing up. What's their first money memory? What about their parents? What did they learn from their parents? Because we were taught things either through osmosis or through speech that may or may not be serving us today, 20, 30, 50 years later. And knowing that and being aware of it and knowing that you can change is really important. You have certain beliefs about money, whether you know it or not. I was taught growing up, we can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's too expensive. My dad used to scream at me if I left the light on in my room. Joel, we're not a shareholder of Long Island Lighting Company. Shut that light off. And I think people can relate to this, right? That is what's I call poverty consciousness, or lack or scarcity. It's not true. You know it, Daniel, it's not true. There's so much abundance and prosperity on this earth. And it's not just money, right? The amount of drops of water in the ocean, the amount of blades of grass, the amount of solar energy coming from the sun is almost infinite, right? And so there's so much abundance here. And if you truly know that in your heart of hearts, then operating from that lack and poverty consciousness is not serving you. You may have been taught it, but there are ways to learn new things about money that will allow you to prosper. And I think, like you said in the opening, there are a lot of spiritual people who have been taught that it's not right to be rich. And I will work with you and for the rest of my life to have them know that that's not true. Because how great would it be if you were $10 million and you could give $1 million away to your favorite charity, even start your favorite charity, or give food and clothing and shelter and water to those in need. There are billions of people around the world who need our help. And so knowing that, why wouldn't you want to become rich and help them? You can't serve from a place of poverty, as you said, right? If you're in need, it's really hard to give to others. Although what I teach my clients, by the way, and rule number 6 in the 9 money rules millionaires use is giving. And I tell my clients, when you're feeling most lack and most poverty conscious, give. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it works on your mindset. You're subconsciously telling yourself, I have plenty to spare and share. And by the way, anyone who's watching this is living the dream life of 90 to 99% of the world. There are billions of people who would love to just switch places with you for one day, and they would be ecstatic. So know that, and so know when you're feeling lack or scarcity in a first world country that you can give. And it doesn't even have to be about money. I talk about giving your time or talent to a stranger. You know, you have gifts, you could share that with a stranger. You could even just give a smile to a stranger, and that can completely change their day. That's a gift.
Beautiful. So nicely said, Joel. Thank you. Another one of my favorite quotations that comes to mind as you say that: anyone who says money can't buy happiness hasn't given enough away, right? And it's so true what you said there. It's one of the, I don't know, it's like a plague in the spiritual world, all these obstacles or limiting beliefs, and the conditioning, spirituality and money, they don't go together, and vows of poverty and all that. I love the way Wallace Wattles speaks about it. And to me, that's one of my favorite. It's such a great name. It's just fun to say, right? Wallace Wattles. Like, somebody had a name, Wallace Wattles. And for people who don't know, great book, The Science of Getting Rich. And one of the things he says at the beginning really impressed me. And I'm with you. I think there's so many reasons why it's absolutely beneficial to everyone to become wealthy. One of the things he says, though, that I think is really useful for spiritual people is your responsibility to your creator, your responsibility as a physical being, a spirit in a physical form, is to grow to your potential, right? To evolve. And you can't do that if you can't afford to study, if you can't afford to travel, if you can't afford to have experiences that enrich you and help you grow. And certainly you're far more limited on what you can offer and give to other people if you are shrinking back instead of growing yourself. So it's such an important lesson. And I'll say one more thing, and then I got a question for you about this prosperity consciousness component. It's so huge, and I remember really clearly when I first discovered that distinction. I had the first 25 years of my life living in poverty consciousness. I grew up in a lower middle class family, and same kind of things, same messages like your father. We're not a shareholder. I remember so many stories from my mother and my father and my mother and my father arguing with each other about money, and we can't do that. And we can, so many levels of conditioning on that. And then when I was in my mid 20s, I was doing a program in transformational breath, becoming a facilitator. And our teacher said, part of your training is you're going to do a spiritual prosperity program. And I didn't even know what it was, but it was so far against my conditioning that I was like, I don't want to do it. Right. Anyway, it's another story I tell in a different place, but I did it and it changed my life to see, wow, I was just invested in this lack. And there's an infinite number of blades of grass and beams of sunlight and drops in the ocean. Why wouldn't that be true with everything in life? Unlimited love. So how do you help people, Joel, when people get aware of the poverty consciousness? How do you help them to overcome that and create something different?
Yes, great question. Thank you, Daniel. Before I answer, I do want to point out I have my favorite books on solomore.com. It's under Get Inspired, and The Science of Getting Rich is one of those by Wallace Wattles. And there's another 20 others that I highly recommend. If you're a reader, either, if you like to listen, that's great too, do the audiobooks. But these are all great books to change your mindset. And so that's what I do. When people come to me, and there's a lot of spiritual people I work with, and my main type of client are spiritual entrepreneurs, because a lot of them have this conditioning. So it's creating new conditioning, right? It's creating new beliefs around money, and we do various different techniques. One is I give them some affirmations that I ask them to rate them based on their belief level from 1 to 10, where 10 is absolute faith and 1 is massive doubt. And I tell them if they're not a high belief, 7, 8, 9, or 10, don't be saying them. Now, the affirmation you can say over and over again, and it can get into your subconscious. It may take a really long time. For example, one of them is, I am an excellent money manager. And a lot of my clients have a hard time with that one. At least in the physical reality, that has not been true for them. So what we do is we soften it, as opposed to saying something that they have massive doubt in. So that's one way to get to a place where eventually you can say, I am an excellent money manager, and truly believe it in your heart of hearts, even if maybe in the physical world right now it doesn't seem to be true. But in the non-physical world, the money is flowing to you. The abundance is flowing to you. So that's one way. I also talk a lot about pretending. And if the physical world looks to you like you don't have the abundance that you deserve, that you came here to have, then pretend like you do. So what can you do? Say you want a new car, a brand new blue convertible Maserati Gran Turismo that goes from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds and is semi-autonomous. You can go and test drive it. You can go online and find where those cars are available. Pretend that it's about to come into your physical reality. You can do the same thing with a vacation or a dream house or a dream partner. I talk about pretending and using vision boards or vision boxes, cut out from magazines, things and places you want to go to, and put it up on a board. And you don't have to stare at it all day. I have 3 vision boards in my bedroom, and I don't ever stare at them. They're in my peripheral vision. They're getting into my subconscious mind. And I've used vision boards and pretending to go to the last 12 countries I've been to in the last 3 years. TSW. This stuff works. Or you could use the other S word. It's fine.
Either way, it works.
Either way, it works.
W stays the same. I'm with you. I like it. Well, and I'm really with you on everything that you shared there, and I've got my own experiences with that, and I work with with clients, my coaching clients in a similar way in looking at what am I creating through my speech, through my beliefs, and what are the doubts or fears or self-judgments that could get in the way of that. Though for now, I want to play angel's advocate for a moment, because I can hear the voice of some folks say, "Well, Joel, what do you mean pretend? Isn't that being in denial? Isn't that not being honest, and don't I need to be responsible to the situation that I'm in, and wouldn't I get in trouble by that kind of pretense? And I have an idea about that, but just going out on a limb here, guessing you might have heard a thought like that before.
Absolutely. And what I say is that every money is energy, everything is energy. And so if you're focused on what is, and what is not serving you, meaning that you look at your bank account and you don't have abundance there, and you look at it 3 times a day, what you're doing is you're lowering your vibration, your frequency, your energy. And you can't get to abundance, which is up here, and prosperity, which is the same vibration as gratitude and appreciation, and love and joy and passion, if you're down here and you're looking at or complaining about your situation. I know you're an expert, Daniel, in the law of attraction. So if you're complaining all day long, you're going to attract more and more things to complain about. So that's why I recommend pretending, and getting your vibration around money up so that you can be on the same frequency, so that the abundance and prosperity can flow to you. And I'm not saying go into debt to do these things. Right? There's so many ways you can pretend without spending any money. Like I just talked about, test driving a new car, or going online and checking out the things you want, or creating a vision board or a vision box. All these things, visualizing. I teach, actually, rule number 4 in the 9 money rules millionaires use is, can visualization make me money? Now, as you talked about in the intro to the show, I don't recommend just meditating and visualizing. You have to take action. You have to take inspired action. Get out there into the world and do this at least get on a StreamYard podcast and talk to an expert and get that information out to the world. But visualization is really helpful, because if you're spending 3 to 5 minutes a day focusing on what you want, that's 3 to 5 minutes you're not focusing on what you don't want. And we have 50 to 75,000 thoughts a day. For the average person, it's way more than half that's not positive. So spending 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes a day on visualization, if you want, I can go through the steps, which are critical, because a lot of people talk about visualization, but they're not doing it properly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be even more of an idiot to say no to that offer, right? Like, and I think this is, and I'm of course joking about that, because I'm an idiot in many ways every day in different parts of my life, and I'm a genius in other ways. I am everything. So I'm just being silly with that before I get a bunch of comments from people. Don't put yourself down. I'm not putting myself down. I love that I have the complexity of a human being, and what I do think of as idiotic is for any of us to say, "Oh no, I already know that," right? And like somebody who's doing well in life, who's moving toward mastery, has the mindset of mastery, is the one who can say, "Oh, tell me more about that," or "Let's see, I would love," and not like, "Oh yeah, I already know that." It's like, how else could I be applying that? How else could I improve my ability to work with and understand that? And I visualize and work with what you're talking about in my life, and have for years. And 100%, I am eager to learn from you, because you've got a perspective and experience that I don't have. So that would be a great gift for everybody here. So yeah, please bring it on, brother.
Okay. So here are the 6 steps to visualization. The first step is to pick a time. You got to do it each day. Be consistent. The second is to pick a place. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it right in bed, right after you wake up. You may fall back to sleep, or don't do it right before in bed, right before you're going to sleep. You may fall asleep. So pick a time, pick a place outside of your bed, pick the amount of time. It shouldn't be more than 5 minutes or so. I wouldn't want you to spend hours doing this. You want to get out into the world and take the inspired action. Step 4 is to write down at least at least three dreams and desires that you can think about consciously while you're visualizing. So, and then so that's step 4. Step 5 may be the most important of the steps, which is from Wayne Dyer's book, Wishes Fulfilled. He said, make your future dream a present reality by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Make your future dream a present reality by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So what he meant was, if you could feel the feeling of that dream or desire before you've actually experienced it in the physical reality, it's going to come really quick. So the feeling part is so essential. And then step 6 is, if you can do it, I have a difficulty with this, but if you can do it, great, is to put yourself in the picture. Like if you're looking down on yourself as you're driving the blue convertible Maserati Gran Turismo, 454 horsepower V8 engine that goes from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, then that would be even better. And then here's the bonus step. Step 7 is to think beyond the dream. So what does that mean? So you want the Maserati Gran Turismo. Don't be picturing yourself buying it or test driving it. Picture yourself in it with your favorite people going 95 miles per hour up, I-95 here in the Northeast, continental US. And with a big smile on your face. Maybe you have more hair than I do. The hair is blowing in the wind and you're just ecstatic. You're feeling so happy. And that's, thinking beyond the dream. You've already got the car. You're already there. It's done. And you're celebrating by driving it. So that's the 6 + 1 bonus step for visualization. I think you're on mute, Daniel.
Indeed, I was. Thank you. Well, it's good though, because I was shouting so loud with so much enthusiasm and excitement about what you shared, because you laid it out so beautifully. And I'm with you. I've seen it in my own experience where I've known about visualization though for years, done it in ways that are, at best less than effective. So I'll highlight a couple things and echo what you said in there. And one of the biggest ones, I think, and I think this is the biggest opportunity that most people miss, is how'd you put it? Number 5, referencing Wayne Dyer, right? And I love another title of one of his books is "You'll see it when you believe it," right? And the key point there is about the feeling aspect of it. And another one of my heroes in this realm is Neville Goddard. And he talks about the secret is in the feeling. And what I did for years, and something that I work with my clients on a lot, is, it's great to visualize. It's great to make a mood board or a mind movie. However, if we're just doing that as a rote routine over and over again, without actually getting into the emotional, I speak of it as emotional rehearsal. Like practice what it's like to feel that, and see if this corresponds with your experience. Though what that does is it accelerates the attraction so much more, right? We're teaching our nervous system, we're teaching our whole being what it's like to feel this, and so that's like a magnet drawing the circumstances to us. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, completely agree. And that's what I was trying to get across, is the feeling first, manifestation second, right? Feeling first, manifestation second. If you could really feel the exact feeling of having the car or the dream house or the dream partner, like really get into that feeling, then it's going to come really quick. And that's why it's rule number 4 in the 9 money rules millionaires use. And this is an essential part of what I teach my clients as well. The mindset piece, this gives you more confidence. Once you start seeing these things coming into your life, you're raising your confidence, you're raising your belief level, and then the abundance and prosperity will flow even faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's part of where it's so valuable, I think, for people just to be part of a conversation like this and get your experience, because something that's come to the forefront in the last few years, and Benjamin Hardy in his book Be Your Future Self Now really put it well. One of the big obstacles for people is, and you said this in talking about the 6+1 guidelines here, is it's hard for people to see the possibility for themselves, right? And when we're stuck in day to day, how am I going to get through this day, month to month, how am I going to make this happen, and we're stuck with the limiting thoughts from the past, like, nobody in my family ever got ahead, I'm not a good money manager, and we've got these messages from the past. It's hard to like just pause for a moment and say, yeah, I'm committed to being wealthy. I'm committed to being free financially. And this is what it's like to like just take that leap, whatever it is, whether it's a month, a year, or 10 years, whatever one imagines that it could be. But to place oneself in that future is hard to do for so many people. Yet having a conversation with you, with someone who's like, it's not rocket surgery. There are some guidelines, some rules, some ways of thinking, some action steps to take. Anybody can do it. Clearly, you don't have to be the wisest, smartest person in the world. I mean, look at some of the people who have become wildly wealthy, right? Clearly anybody can do it. Does that make sense to you, Joel?
Absolutely. And that's a really key point, to know that, a lot of people come to me with these limiting beliefs. Well, I'm not really great in math, or I don't have the time. And don't I need a ton of time to be a great investor? Don't I have to study for, years and years? Don't I have to have, calculus and higher level math to be a great investor? And rule number 2 in the 9 money rules is trust your intuition. And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now have amazing intuition. And I will tell you, as a former hedge fund manager, if I didn't trust my intuition, I either made less money or lost money. And so trusting that intuition is key, and everyone has amazing intuition. So it's not, you don't have to be the brain surgeon, the rocket scientist. It's everyone can become rich. The abundance and prosperity on the earth, by the way, it's almost $500 trillion of net worth on this earth right now. 500 trillion. I can't even conceive of that number. And there's only 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, there's plenty to go around, plenty to spare and share. And when people really know that in the heart of hearts, that's when the abundance flows. And so my clients, a lot of them who are, Reiki masters or meditation teachers or yoga teachers or life coaches or empowerment coaches or even mindset coaches, come to me for help with their money mindset. And some of them have come to me to learn about investing. And I say, we will learn investing, but first we need to get the mindset in the right place, because otherwise you're going to be buying when you should be selling and selling when you should be buying. And that's really critical, important. Some people come to me and just want to learn about investing, and I don't do that. Make it clear, I don't do that, because I need to understand. I will tell you that there's not a person on this planet whose mindset can't improve. No one's 100%. So even if we spend a week or 2 on it, we need to understand where you are first before we get into the investing piece or the business coaching piece, because it's really important to understand everyone's in a different place. And some people may need, and it's nothing against them, but it's how they were brought up with past experiences. They may need 3 full months or a year of just money mindset coaching. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you become aware that's in a year, why not work on that so that the rest of your life you can be prosperous?
100%. It's the most sound investment anyone can ever make is in themselves and in their own mindset. And while these are things that anybody can resolve, clear up, and advance in on their own, is really hard, right? It's really, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So being with somebody like you who can say, oh, did you hear what you just said? Or, oh, isn't that interesting what that thought was that was there? Like, because we're so steeped in the fishbowl of our own lives, we don't know. and I see it, of course, with my own clients, and I see it with myself sometimes, where I'm just, cruising along in life and I say something or I think something like, whoa, I can't believe that. That's been with me for 5 decades. I mean, I came across one 2 months ago that blew me away. It's so powerful and it's so useful. So I want to switch gears for a moment, Joel, because it's such a great opportunity to talk with someone like you, really gets it on the mindset level, on the spiritual level, and has this high level experience financially. And I was a little bit passionate earlier when you're speaking about what I would have considered that criminal negligent advice that you heard at the seminar. And part of how I got to this conversation is, right, so I told you I had this great experience in my mid-20s. Abundance, not poverty, abundance, right, changed my life. And from that point on, I felt abundant. Like I didn't worry about spending or that there wasn't enough. I got to do what I want, have what I want, travel around the world, create whatever I want. I hadn't gotten to the level where I was like buying jets or any of that kind of thing, but I also didn't want to. It wasn't something that was on my radar at that point. And then I was doing a bunch of work with Tony Robbins in 2015. And as I was doing a lot of work with him and going to the next level of my own coaching and my own level of awareness, I came across his massive book called Money Master the Game. And I learned his story with it, which is that he was so pissed off about what happened in 2008, 2009, and how many people were taken advantage of because they were ignorant of what was really going on, that he was really upset about that and he wanted to empower people, right? So cool. For me, what happened when I read that book is I realized, holy moly, right? For my whole life, I had believed that this was an area I couldn't understand, right? I wasn't conscious of that belief, but I grew up as a fat kid and I learned about health. I learned how to be, empowered. I grew up spiritually poor, but I learned how to be spiritually rich, but I had not crossed that bridge financially. So when I learned that, I was like, whoa, this is another part of the physical plane. And if we're here to master the physical plane, this is a part of our education here on the earth plane. So I learned about then this concept of financial stewardship, right? And learning the language of finance. And it's very off-putting at first because you hear a lot of big words and and there's all this strange language around it, which I'm sure is in large part intentional. But what would you say? It's a long introduction to this question, but what would you say in terms of the difference between abundance and financial stewardship and people understanding that world?
Well, rule number 8 in the 9 money rules millionaires use is DIY investing. So that's what I teach. Do it yourself. And you don't have to go from zero doing it yourself to 100%. You could take the baby steps along the way. But I think it is important to take responsibility, take the stewardship of your own finances. And I have had people come to me and say, but my financial advisor is expert, awesome. And I say, well, how do you know that? What are the returns they've been getting for the last 1, 3, 5 years? How does that compare to the overall market, whatever market that is? And most people don't know. I talk to my advisor every 3 months and they explain everything to me. I said, okay, that may be fine, but you need to be able to talk intelligently with them and ask the right questions. What are their fees? What are the returns? What are the returns without the fees? What are the returns with the fees? And how has that been compared to the different indices over that time period? So even when the perception is you've given up responsibility, you haven't given up responsibility. You chose the financial advisor, so you have to take responsibility for that at least. And so it's very important, I believe, to take full responsibility for all aspects of your life, not just certain aspects. And that we talked about this earlier. I require my clients to take full responsibility for all aspects of their life, even if they're not managing their own money. They effectively are by making the decision to choose somebody else to do that. And you can't say, oh, I'm going to blame that person. No, you chose that person to manage it for you. You need to take full responsibility for it. So that's really important. And I have a really strong belief that you can do it yourself. We've talked about this already. It's, if you trust your intuition, if you go through the 9 money rules and follow them, you can do it yourself and become financially free. And so it's important to know that and have that belief. If you don't have that belief, we need to work on getting you to that belief level where you know that you can become financially free by doing it yourself, by trusting your intuition, and by taking the action steps that are required. And yes, it is true that a lot of times the verbiage, the terms can be complicated. And like you said, maybe it's done on purpose. But if you trust your intuition, if you have somebody like me who's your accountability partner and helping you along the way, then you can learn. And it's not rocket science, right? You don't need the calculus. You don't need I don't have an MBA in finance.
Nice. Thank you. And that's empowering on so many levels. And I love the way you put it in terms of DIY. And it's very similar to creating success physically, right? I can't hire a physical advisor to go to the gym for me. Well, I could, and they probably would be happy to take my money and get in better shape themselves, but it's not going to do anything for my physical health. So it's just so empowering for all of us, I think, to realize absolutely we can do this. And not only can we, I would say we must, right? We really need to learn this and take that level of responsibility. So I want to play angel's advocate again, though, for a moment, because you've spoken a few times about intuition. And one of the common pieces of advice that comes in the investing worlds, whatever types of investment we're talking about, is be careful of emotional investing, right? And you have to be logical and have a system and take your emotion out of it. And emotion and intuition are not necessarily the same thing by any means, though I think it's worth you clarifying a little more on this, because I have a feeling some people could get the wrong impression. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And I talk about this in the 9 money rules in the chapter on intuition too, because look, I was managing hundreds of millions of dollars at the peak, $700 million for Citi, and I had my own hedge fund. I had large amounts of money to manage, and so especially in 2008, there were times, to be open with the viewers, I was fearful, I was worried, I was scared. I wasn't in the place I am now. I wasn't as enlightened as I am now, and so. I learned to trust my intuition and then also distinguish between intuition and fear. And it's a very different feeling when you are trusting your intuition. What you can do, and what I talk about in the book, is think back to a time when you had used your intuition. What feelings in the body came up? What places the body felt differently? Did you feel warm or cold? What parts of the body were feeling that? Were you jittery or antsy? And what came up for you when the last time you used your intuition? And then check that with how you're feeling when the next time comes up. Is it intuition or fear? So you can parallel that. And I teach my clients actually how to develop their intuition. I say, look, I used to go to the gym and do my bicep curls to develop my bicep. So you can develop your intuition. You are making hundreds of decisions every single day. and start with a baby step. Maybe it's, you're going, you're commuting to work, and you check your intuition to say which way is the best way to go. Now, I used to take my daughters to school every morning, and we had options. We could take the highway, we could take the local roads, or we could hitchhike. Just kidding. So normally my intuition was telling me to take the highway. But there was one particular morning that the highway was all backed up with traffic. And my intuition was telling me to still take the highway. But my intellect said no. Why do that? So I went local. And immediately my stomach was in knots. I heard the sirens. I saw the flashing lights. And because I didn't trust my intuition, it cost me a $150 speeding ticket. And to this day, my daughters tease me and call me Speedy Pants.
That's great.
So you can develop your intuition throughout the day and take those baby steps so that then when it comes to important decisions, you have more confidence in it, you believe in it. Rule number one, by the way, when you believe. And so then you can trust it and use it in more important decisions like investing. So hopefully that answered the question, Daniel.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's really helpful part of the education for all of us here. And I love that you mentioned baby steps a couple times, because something that's continued to pop up for me as you're speaking. One of the challenges I've seen for people that get excited about, like, I'm gonna get ahead financially, I'm gonna create financial freedom, and they take some step, they invest in this or they invest in that, and then they have a setback, and then they say something like, it didn't work out. And and my feeling with that always is like, it's not that it didn't work out. Let's look at what's the real goal. What's your real aim? And if your real goal and your real aim is to get ahead, to get financially free, then, well, that particular thing maybe hasn't worked out, or maybe it did because you learned something, or maybe it hasn't worked out yet. But it's like, just like all of us that are parents, there wasn't a point where we said, well, honey, you took 3 or 4 steps and it really didn't work out, so I think we're going to have to give up on walking. Like, no, come on. Any goal that is worthwhile is worth persisting in.
Absolutely.
So baby steps and continued steps. But before I go any further, I realize we are just cooking along on time. Such a wonderful, rich conversation. Time flies. So in a moment, I've got the big final question for you, if you're willing. Prior to that, though, people, I'm sure, are going to say, like, this Joel dude, I got to get in touch with him. How can I learn more? What are these 9 habits, 6+1 guidelines for visualization? He's got, all these cool acronyms. How can I learn more? How can I get in touch with Joel? What's the best way?
Thank you, Daniel. So it's Salamor.com, SALAUR for Lauren, MOR for Morgan, my 2 daughters. My company name is named after my daughters, Salamor.com. And by the way, I give everyone in the world 30 minutes free, absolutely free prosperity coaching. No obligation for anything else. That's my gift. We talked about giving, rule number 6. And so that's my giving to you. I also, for those who are watching here, I'm giving to this online course absolutely free. If you put in the discount code prosperity, and you'll get that online course absolutely free. So that's in addition to my 30 minutes free of prosperity coaching on Salamor.com.
Well, you're not saying that somebody could get both of those things, are you?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Well, and I'm with you. Generosity, it not only feels good, it changes us. It makes the world a better place, and it creates a virtuous cycle of increased prosperity for everyone. So when I clicked on that second piece to bring up the gift of getting into the 9 money rules course of yours, I wasn't even realizing that was separate. I was thinking I was just helping people to connect to the 30 minutes that you offered. So we have that here now, and I'm going to type that into the chat so people have that URL easy and they can copy it and paste it. Would you say again, like, what's the way for them to get in touch with you if they want to take advantage of your generous offer for 30 minutes of money mindset coaching with you?
Yeah, so go to salamour.com. That's SALAURMOR.com. And the other thing I wanted to point out in the conversation you were just talking about before this, Daniel, is when something goes awry, it appears to go awry in the physical world. You made an investment and it didn't pan out. Think about what the gift is in the challenge. Because I know in my life, if I step back far enough, a year back or 6 months or many years back, there's a gift in that challenge. So there's learnings that are going on. Maybe in the minute, I remember going through both of my divorces, but the second divorce was really trying. And going through it, if anybody had told me, oh, there's a gift in here, I would have been very upset. But now I know. Years later, I know that there was many gifts in that challenge, many, many gifts. And, I don't wish that on anyone, but I'm in a better place personally having gone through that experience. So think about what the gift could be in the challenge you're going through right now. Maybe even journal on it.
Hallelujah. Nicely said. Thank you. All right. Well, that brings us along to the final question, the big question. Would it be okay? It's an impossible question, by the way. Like it's so ridiculously impossible. There's no way that you can answer this. So, which means there's no pressure because you can't get it right. That means you can't get it wrong. Would it be okay? Can I ask you the big final question?
Sure.
All
yes.
Right. So, Joel, you've got so much experience, not just in the realm of finance, money mindset, in life and spirituality. And as you know, this show is all about the art of vibrant living. So given all of that, here's the impossible task. What's the one thing that you would offer to our audience that they can do or not do? What's the one thing that will help them to have the most vibrant, amazing life possible for them?
Well, for me, we talked about vibration and frequency earlier. The highest vibration is with abundance and prosperity is joy and happiness and love and passion. So if you're vibrating there, all you want in life will come to you. So think about how you can act in those ways of happiness and joy and passion and love on a daily basis. Because when you're acting like that, you're attracting that into your life. So imagine if the world, 8 billion people, were operating in that vein, the highest vibration of joy, passion, happiness, gratitude, appreciation, love, the abundance and prosperity, even though it's so abundant right now, would be even more abundant. So that's how I would answer that question.
That's beautiful. So nicely said. 100% with you on that. Joel, you've been so generous to share your experience. Clearly, you're a master at this. You've had so much experience yourself that you've been able to simplify stuff that for a lot of people is complex, and then you present it in a way that I think is really easy for people to grok and for our listeners and viewers to apply. So thank you so much for the work you've done on yourself and for the generosity of sharing it, and specifically with being with us today.
Daniel, thanks so much for having me. It has been an honor and a pleasure. So I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you for saying that. It's great to have you. And for all of y'all that are viewing, watching either live or by rebroadcast, thank you, because you are who we're waiting for. You being interested in this, you taking the step to learn, to tune in, and then please take some action on what you're learning. Teach what you're learning to other people. Try it out in your own life and know that that makes a difference in the world. Just you shifting your own vibration, your own life has a huge ripple effect in the world. It's really important. You are really important. And I love that you are here. I love you. I'm so grateful for you to be taking this time and investing in yourself and making your life and the world better. So y'all, thank you so much. Tune in again soon because we got more vibrancy on the way to you. And in the meantime, please make your life even more of a masterpiece. Aloha, y'all. See you soon. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.